Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here and for watching. I'm really excited I don't know if this is a presentation, this is a conversation kind of about the integration between functional health and traditional medicine and how they work so well together. My name is Dr. Madison Oak. I have with me Julia Starkey, who I adore, and we will kind of talk about your journey with a vestibular disorder, vestibular migraine, triple PD, BPPV, and kind of how the different things have helped you. The reason that we are kind of pestering you with all these questions, I hope it's not too much of pestering, is because we are putting on something called the Vestibular Virtual Summit. That is being hosted October 12th and 13th, which goes through a lot of these different concepts with which Julia has experience with. And so through that, we hope that you can kind of gain an understanding by watching this about what that might look like for your personal journey with vestibular disorder. So yeah, go ahead and kind of tell us about yourself, about your vestibular diagnosis, all the things.
Okay. Hi, Madison. I was diagnosed in 2021, came on kind of out of nowhere. I had most all the usual side effects that everyone gets with the nausea and spinning and rocking boat and walking like a drunk and ear pain, all the things. And I saw multi practitioners, as many of you have, I'm sure. And I saw my PCP, couple of ENTs, and then finally a neurologist who got me on the road of getting better with some medications. And a side note to that, I was also misdiagnosed. For many, many years, I had sinus infections, as they told me, for many years, and I took Excedrin, and that worked for a while. But then all of a sudden, it didn't work. So that's when all that started.
Totally. I think it's so common for people to say, oh, I just am having sinus headaches. Like it's really just like this head pain or this face pain right here. That's not actually a diagnosis. We know that now, right? Where it's actually ultimately 99% of the time is migraine. So it's something that's hard to come by as a diagnosis, but so important that we do for sure understand.
For sure.
Thanks for sharing that with us. Um, all of your symptoms, you're like, I had all these symptoms. They ended up with a vestibular migraine diagnosis, correct?
Right.
And when you were going through treatment for this, you had kind of a long course of, hey, do this, now do that for different vertigo things. And I'd love if you could talk to us kind of about that and what that looked like
Sure.
at first.
Of course, I went to my PCP first, and he did the Epley maneuver on me, and was a little bit unsure of what was going on because it was both eyes. And then he was telling me, just do this until we get you into the ENT. Do it every day. And of course, I wanted to feel better, so I was doing it every day, which I was feeling worse and worse every day.
Mhm.
I finally got into the ENT, who said, "You probably have vestibular migraine. You need a diagnosis, but you need to go to somebody else." So I
Mhm.
went to another ENT. He gave me the Heal Your Headache diet, gave me some Timolol drops, and 15 minutes later, I was gone. And I was pretty hysterical when I left because it really wasn't like what I was expecting. But it was the diagnosis per se. And so finally got into a neurologist. And that was when things started to turn around because I was able to get medications and some help with. I was in a lot of pain. I was in Not only was I drunk and dizzy and nauseous, I had a lot of head pain too.
Mhm.
So I was happy to get into the neurologist.
So at first, what started with, hey, you might have BPPV, do the epley into eternity, actually ended up being vestibular migraine, which also is presenting with positional vertigo, right?
Exactly.
And that can be really frustrating because when you do have positional vertigo, for a lot of people, you're like, oh, I'll just do this maneuver and it's going to go away and I'll feel so much better and all of the things. But more often than not, we're finding that that's not actually the case. So I'm glad you continue to push further and kind of work on getting that VM diagnosis and some treatment options. Um, I know you had like your Timolol, so your rescue med, and then a preventative, and things kind of slowly started to improve. So what did you try after that?
I did go to vestibular rehab therapy also, sort of in the beginning, before I saw the neurologist. And it was just at the time, it was just a disaster for me because I was in a 24/7 attack, basically. I never knew the beginning to the end. And so I did actually stop going on my own before I even got to the neurologist. And he said, whoa, stop, too fast. You shouldn't be doing that. And I really found, for me, the best treatment was getting out of my house, going on a walk. Any kind of movement I could do out of these four walls was, honestly, I felt the best. And it was, during COVID still. And there were a lot of people outside, so I could talk to neighbors and whatnot, and they would laugh at me walking down the sidewalks, but I was out there like 5 times a day. Not far, not fast, but outside, and that was really, like, the best thing for me. Um, and I was getting better until I had, a COVID booster. And so, between the vaccination and the booster, I think those two things were really key to how this all started. And luckily, I was with a neurologist at that point. So I had my first bridge treatment, which I didn't even know it was called a bridge treatment at the time. I just know he gave me prednisone and I started to get better. So that was very helpful. And then at the end of 2023, the telehealth rules changed. So I couldn't see the neurologist I was seeing. So I had to change neurologist. And thank you, Madison, because you helped me with that. And it's been I was scared to change. Of course, change is always scary. But he was great, and he was able to give me all kinds of other options. I had trialed so many meds with the first neurologist, so we kind of had a path to go down of things that I could tolerate. So he was able to add to those things because I had quickly, just overnight, gone from episodic to chronic. And I didn't even really know it had happened. It just happened so fast. So having like more supplements, I had more neuromodulators, and also he gave me alternate medications so I could, as he calls it, layer my medications. I never had known that term. And I learned that I was under medicating. I mean, I was a little afraid of the medications. It's like I take half of one because I was so sensitive. And then I would wait 2 days before I felt like it was okay to take another one. So I just kind of learned how to medicate myself. And from that was a huge turning point for me.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned that because a lot of times we do fear those medications and people will say exactly what you're saying. Like, I'm going to take half of one because I don't know, maybe I'll need it again later or vice versa. But under treating or not treating migraine at all, no matter what that looks like for you, whether it's a neuromodulation device, a supplement, electrolytes, traditional medication that you get from the pharmacy, whatever that is, you need to stop migraine before it continues to get worse.
Yes.
Because untreated migraine begets more migraine attacks, if that makes sense. So the more migraine attacks you have, the more migraine attacks you have, and you have to break that cycle. So sort of bridge treatments can become really helpful, as well as using your acute medications and your whole acute toolkit really adequately, which you've been doing so well lately.
No, it was really helpful. I also think that being able to break your migraine and then seeing a beginning and an end, that was like, oh, such a just like lightning bolt. Oh, that is what's starting my migraine. So now I medicate. It just really took me a long time to get there, because it was just this train wreck that just kept going. And until I could get to a place where I had some peaks and valleys, to be able to tell when to medicate. So that was helpful. And probably about a year into my diagnosis, I started seeing a somatic therapist,
Mhm.
one-on-one. And then soon after that, I joined a migraine group. And those two things together, were like, the timing was perfect. I was at a place where I was finally starting, like I could do things like that. And it was really helpful to be able to to be around people that understood and got it, and that part has just been really been essential to my treatment.
That's awesome. That sense of community really can be so helpful. And migraine, especially vestibular disorders and vestibular migraine, can be really isolating because you're like, I feel like I can't go out and do my normal things and socialize and see my friends and family and have people over and entertain and whatever that looks like for you. But ultimately, taking yourself away from those things and isolating yourself can actually clinically make things feel worse. So finding ways that you can find community of people who get it and or also seeing people in your life, even if it's for short amounts of time at first, can be really helpful. So I'm glad that you're in those groups and using all those things to your advantage.
Yeah, it was definitely a turning point for me. And I mean, it helped me with so many things, not just my mindset, but also just being able to just do daily chores, paying bills, just things in the house that I couldn't do. I mean, just physically wasn't able to. And I think, having a better mindset about it all, and then also having some breaks in the migraine, I mean, I just started to feel a lot more normal, you know, just being able to, and the brain fog lifting, big help.
Big help, huge help. So now we've kind of touched on what your traditional medical background has looked like, right? Medications, supplements, neuromodulation devices, a lot of the things that most of us talk about on a regular basis, or hopefully most of us know about. And if you don't know about that and you're watching these and being like, what are the things I do? That's a great starting point. Also, there's so many ways to start this journey. But what led you to look into more alternative forms of of medical care,
Not
and
yet.
not Medicare, in order to kind of create a more integrative, holistic outlook with your health and with your diagnoses?
Sure. About 15 years ago, I was really sick and I was diagnosed with mold. And so at that point, I was referred to a doctor to help me. I lived in Texas, and she was a board certified internist as well as an integrated functional doctor. So she was kind of both. And so that was like a really good fit for me. And she's obviously functional doctor is really great at looking at your whole body, looking at the root cause, which we found very quickly was mold. And just going through the protocol with someone like that. And she was super gentle and aware of my sensitivities and didn't just throw like the harshest protocol on me. It was not easy, but I really liked her approach. So I worked with her. And then shortly after that, we moved to Texas. And I'm sorry, we moved from Texas to California. And I was referred to a PCP physician, and that was totally great. He's great. I'm still with him. And I think, just it was kind of a radical change going from a functional integrative doctor to a regular doctor. And I kind of had to just like settle in with that. And I kind of miss like the other side of it, but that's what I had here. And that was the best care for me. But then after my vestibular migraine diagnosis, I really did feel the need to like search out some more functional care. And so I had a functional dietitian, and she helped me so much with things, obviously food, but way more than food, kind of everything migraine related. And that was super helpful. And then I had, hormone issues, as we all find out, like through the years. And so I was imbalanced. And so I sought out a functional integrated gynecologist, and like she was fantastic. And so it was just really nice to have that kind of buffer. I had both, at the time. And unfortunately, I was diagnosed with mold again, got exposed at a VRBO. Um, Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that, but anyway, I got exposed on vacation. And so I went back to my functional doctor in Texas because I already had a relationship with her, and I knew how the treatment would be. I knew that she would understand that I'm in a different place now. And I've still kept my PCP here. And the two of them both have the same end goal of, me living a healthy life. And it's worked out great having both of them. And so that's what I'm doing now.
I think that's awesome that you're able to kind of see both sides of this, right? Like you have your traditional medical doctor and your functional doctor, and they're able to work together. And I know that like someone might be watching this and being like, how in the world am I going to get two people who are my medical providers that don't necessarily agree on everything to work together? And I totally am here for you that that could be really, really incredibly difficult, but it also is very, very possible. And in the States, at least, you are always able to change your doctors. You are always able to switch doctors. I even live in I live in a small town with not a lot of doctors, but even I can switch doctors. So most of the time you can, and if not, someone is usually available via telehealth these days. So
Right.
I think that that's great. And I like that you're kind of going through all of the different options in order to get your best outcome and kind of get that last like 20 to 30% of the way through your vestibular migraine journey. Not that it's ever over per se, but kind of looking into these other things.
I feel like with vestibular migraine, you almost need a team. I really don't think there's a way. Well, there probably is a way just to have one doctor, but there's just like so many other factors that factor into getting, you feeling better. And for me, it's just worked out. Like I feel like I have a really good team, and I'd say 75% of them I see on telehealth.
Yeah,
So it's not that hard to do.
absolutely. I totally agree with you. Um, And having a team really is so important. And again, it's one of those things that people don't believe me until they do. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, I do need more than just my headache specialist. I need my physical therapist. I need XYZ other resources to help me. Because I say this all the time, we all go to school for a very long time to do one very specific thing. We're very passionate about that specific thing. We all see the world in a certain way, and having people who see the world in certain ways and kind of mixing those together and being like, oh, this is how I advocate for myself really can be so helpful.
True.
So, since you got re-diagnosed with mold toxicity from being on vacation, um, I want everyone to know that it really can happen that quickly. Like you can go for a weekend vacation and it could be moldy, and you could get exposed that quickly and have mold. So people will say like, well, I don't live in mold, or my house doesn't have mold, or I've never had water damage, or I live in a new build building. New build buildings can be really problematic for some people. Like the lumber can have mold on it before your house gets built. Like there are so many things that can expose us to this that we don't necessarily know about. So do know that. And at the summit, we're talking specifically about like how to test your house and how to test yourself and all of that. But for you, what has that been like?
Well, I would say that it's definitely been a different experience this time around for a couple reasons. One, I've done it before, so I'm like not afraid of it. And I want to say there's no reason to be afraid of it. Like I think that it's just, I mean, we're already used to taking a lot of supplements. You're just going to be taking a lot more. And so, and you're already doing things like, sleeping and, trying to regulate your nervous system, and you're doing all those things. So like, don't be afraid of it. But I will say with chronic migraine, it's harder because of our sensitivities to things. And so one example would be like, they're going to throw a lot of new supplements with you. And I had my functional doctor, she numbered them all and start with this one, then go to that one, then go to that one. If you can't tolerate that one, stop. And so I did have to stop a lot of them. And then I would go back to them where, I'd improve some and my sensitivities weren't as sensitive. And so I could take it then. And so I think, just going through it with someone who understands you and what you're already going through is super helpful. So that's been my experience this time. I think has been easier, even though it's probably harder doing it with chronic migraine. I don't know.
That's fair.
Easier because like I have the right doctor, I have the right person who's gentle and understanding and all those things.
Yeah, I like that. And I know that you've said that like when you do a protocol like this, if something isn't working, you can always like stop and try again later. Or like maybe you say to start here, but like that doesn't work this time, even though it worked last time, I'm gonna start over here instead. And those things really can help improve, and knowing that you need to listen to your body and also that your doctor needs to listen to you. So making sure you have a good relationship with that person really is so important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what have been the benefits of considering the environment rather than just like, here are some meds for migraine, which is an important thing to do. Don't get me wrong, like meds for migraine can be awesome, but what has been the importance for you of considering the environmental impact on your health?
I guess for me, I keep using this word sensitive, but I am just really sensitive to anything with scents and any strong anything. And so just slowly over time, I've changed all the products in my home. So all my household products I've changed to environmentally sensitive products. And I've just slowly changed anything that I put on my body, from my shampoo to all my makeup, everything. And it's really not hard to do. It's probably the easiest thing I've done. And you just do it slowly. Like you don't just go throw everything in the trash. You can, but I just did it as I ran out of things.
Mhm.
Um, I think probably the hardest thing to do is just finding like the right products that work for you, that work for your skin and things like that. So you might have a little trial and error time. There are apps out there. I found a great app that you can like type in
Mhm.
household products or cosmetic or hair products or whatever, and you can type it in. It gives you a whole list of things that'll be red, green, or yellow. And you can just decide from that list, like, okay, I'm going to try a couple of those greens. And so there's people out there to help you that you can do research or you can use apps. And that was really helpful.
I totally agree. Like there are so many Instagram accounts and apps and websites and people
Yeah.
who just want to tell you this information. Like we have a whole, like just so many resources available to us these days about these things. And it's so helpful when you finally are like, okay, I know what to do and I'm going to change them slowly. And I love what you said about changing them slowly, not just throwing everything away. I did have a patient do that one time and I wouldn't recommend it. Just like overhauling your life. It's going to cost like too much money and be really stressful. So
Right.
run out, I
And then
would say.
you also don't know, like, especially like with I have MCAS,
Mhm.
and that was also diagnosed with that this year with my mold. And so I get hives and
Mhm.
flushing, all that kind of weird stuff. That comes with that. And so if you go and like change everything all at once, you're
Yeah.
never gonna know what is affecting you. The same way with supplements and whatnot. If I've learned all this the hard way. I'm not an expert. I've learned this by doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So, you know, taking one thing at a time, changing one thing at a time really just helped me the most.
Yeah. I love that. I think the rule of like when you run out of it, replace it with a better one. And
Yeah.
do your best and the rest of it you can ignore. Like the best I can do is XYZ and I just cannot replace this thing yet, or I can't do that thing, whatever it looks like.
Right.
Do your best and the rest you can ignore, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
80/20 rule or
eight
whatever.
twenty rule. Yes, about literally everything in life, you guys. It's okay, right? Like maybe you use really clean dishwasher and laundry detergent, but you aren't filtering your water or vice versa. Like there are so many things to consider. It can be really overwhelming at first, but take it slow. It's taken me like years to get to the place I am at with this. So
Yeah.
it takes time. Okay. Well, some of the last stuff is the last stuff. And one of the last questions I have for you is if you had a fellow vestie to give some advice to about this journey, what would it be?
Oh gosh. Maybe a couple things. The first thing I would say is, when you first get this, I was kind of proud of myself when it first happened. I did not get on Google for almost 2 weeks, and that was really good for me.
Really good.
And interesting enough, I got on at like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning because obviously wasn't sleeping because it felt so crummy, and it went straight. I put in what all my symptoms and went straight to vestibular migraine. So I called my PCP the next morning and said, "I think I have vestibular migraine," and he's like, you know, well, actually, it's a nurse,
Classic.
but anyway, and it was. But I would say research and learn as much as you can. There's so many great people like Madison and hundreds more out there that can help you learn about your diagnosis, but don't do too much because it's so easily to get overwhelmed and do what's comfortable for you. That would be my advice because I think it's just really easy to get overwhelmed. And so just do enough that you feel comfortable with what your protocol and how you're treating yourself, but not enough that you're just constantly questioning, oh, well,
Mhm.
they did this and they do that, and maybe I should do that too.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second thing I would say is get involved with some groups. And I took too long to do this in my journey. And, vestibular group fit, one-on-one therapy, migraine groups, those are the best way to be with people who totally get what you're going through. And like you said earlier, you're not feeling alone. It's a very isolating disease. And to be with people who understand and get it, it just completely changed like my whole outlook on everything, doing that. And even on days that I feel bad, I don't feel as bad as I used to because I just handle it better. And I
Mhm.
think I handle it better because I have that support. And so I just think if there's one thing that you could change that you're not doing, been a really big one for me. It's been really invaluable.
I love that advice. I think it's great. And I love that you're like, don't be obsessive about learning everything there is to know about this. Like, if you have questions, go to a person like who understands this and can take the time to explain it to you, or get really trusted educational resources like trusted recommended books or groups or whatever that looks like for you. Because there's a lot of scary information on Google that's truly incorrect. And so definitely getting your information from people who you trust and in a group that makes sense for you and finding people who get it. I love that advice.
You can
Awesome.
ask Dr. Madison. I think I've probably blown her DMs up as much as possible.
Just as possible. I love answering questions. And I know, although Dr. Emily couldn't be here today, that she loved asking or answering questions as well. So, yeah, anything else?
Gosh, I'm really excited for the summit. I can't wait.
Too. Oh my gosh, I am so excited, you guys. The summit is going to talk about all things mold, home health, Lyme disease, genetics. Um, my goodness, the list is literally so long. Diet and nutrition. It's going to talk about so many different things that we really haven't touched on enough in this community, from hormones and MCAS, functional medicine, Ayurveda and neurology, home health, genetics, Lyme disease, mold. We're also going to talk about Dr. Emily's story, trauma, PTSD, how our bodies respond to trauma and stress, and how to have a trauma-informed provider, and then diet and nutrition. Do I need to change my diet? Things like that. So all of these topics are really important and not everyone knows about them. And this is definitely not something we discuss enough in this community. So we're really excited to have you. The link to sign up is below. Definitely check it out. If not, nothing else, just go read the page about it if you have more questions. And of course, you can email me, madison@thevertigodoctor.com. You can DM me. You can email Dr. Emily as well. I'll put all the contact information below. Yeah, thanks so much for being here today, Julia.
Thank you. It was good to see you.
You too. Bye.